First, I want to thank Barbara Genemisa King for giving me the opportunity to speak at the Kwanzaa celebration here before you. Africa Newark, which has been a very consistent organization in the city of Newark, putting on these festivals and making us aware of our cultural heritage and bringing our community together. Africa Newark needs a round of applause. Let's give Africa Newark, even in the face of us not wanting to embrace the organization sometimes or embrace ourselves sometimes. There's a few of us who still remain, who remember some of the stuff that they've learned a long time ago to get them where they are today, that continue to want to push that. Sometimes, you know, there's an old African proverb that says, once you come in from the rain, it's hard to go back out again. So Africa Newark needs to be commended that they continuously go out in the rain to bring other people in from the rain into shelter, you know, because sometimes once we get power or we get authority or we feel like we arrive, sometimes we don't give to the right people that we need to give to. I mean, there are all kind of festivals in the city of Newark. It seems to me that the biggest and baddest festival should be ours. And that would only seem appropriate, and that's not to take away from anybody else's festival, because everybody has the right to celebrate themselves in the way that they think they ought to be celebrated. Everybody has the right to speak their own language, has a right to eat what they like, has a right to praise who they want to praise, and so do we. And if we are the ones that's supposed to be in charge, that should be known. At least it should be known that we are here and around. Today is UJIMA, is that right? Cooperative Economics. I think it's to maintain and create and maintain our own stores, our own businesses, right? That we all can benefit from. I like the last part. That we all can benefit from. And I think we're a long ways from that. And I think that us in here, we need to begin to work towards making that thing happen again, creating businesses and stores that all of us, the people in Newark and people in this town, can benefit from. If we do anything onward, if we do anything going forward, we need to be about creating businesses, creating institutions that all of us continue to benefit from, not just us as individuals, but our children can benefit from. Our children. I'm going to come back later, but I want to say this now, that I went to the Christmas tournament basketball games that are going on, and I see that Malcolm X Shabazz High School is starting to wear, you know, you can big up Malcolm X Shabazz if you like. I mean, even if you want to just big it up because the name is Malcolm X. But there was a process that took place, and I think one of the young people that was instrumental in organizing this was a part of the Committee for Unified Newark. They went down to get petitions. They organized so that Southside can become Malcolm X Shabazz High School for a reason. So that we can represent ourselves the same way when you go to certain people's neighborhoods, the streets are named after them, the schools are named after them, to let people know they were here. We here, we exist, we are part of the community, we are part of the world, we believe what they believe, these are our heroes, these are the people we uphold. And so we went through a process for people to move from Southside, and I think this is appropriate during Kwanzaa, to Malcolm X Shabazz, and there's a group of folks who are fighting feverishly to make sure that Malcolm X is back to Southside. I know that some of us feel like that's you know, nostalgia, or we feel like, you know, there's the good old days, or we say a throwback, so you got the kids wearing jerseys that say Southside. Now I understand that some people feel like this is a throwback, but I told somebody yesterday, Jim Crow is a throwback. Jim Crow and slavery is a throwback. We don't need to be going back. There's some things we don't need to go back to. Sometimes we get this in our head that back in the days we were slaves. They say back in the days when we were segregated, less than 20, 30 years ago, most of us, the majority of black people, didn't even have a 12th grade education. Back in the days, we fought back in the days so we could be in the present, so we could fight to go into the future. We cannot take our children backwards. That's why they embrace the Bloods instead of our organizations. That's why they embrace the Crips instead of our organizations, because we back in the days. And they want to move forward. And they can't see they can't see themselves in what we're trying to create. So anybody that's responsible for taking Malcolm X's name and replacing it for Southside, I think is wrong and should be held to the carpet, because there are people who risk their lives, their careers, to make sure that that school and those children, it ain't just about a name, it's about what Malcolm X represented. It's about giving our kids identity and culture. And isn't that what Kwanzaa is about? Giving us identity, giving us culture, having us embrace something that belongs to us, something that looks like us. The only thing Southside represents is where it is. And back where it was, you probably couldn't even go across Clinton Avenue during those times. If you get caught going, now I wasn't there, but I've heard some stories. I heard some stories about getting across Clinton Avenue. Maybe you should tell your children those stories as opposed to Southside. Tell them about what Clinton Avenue used to be like. Tell them about Goldsmith Avenue and Chancellor Avenue and Aldine Street and Willoughby and all those places over there, and how they couldn't go there. And how at one time in the city before the Newark Rebellions, not riots, before the Newark Rebellion, you couldn't even get past a certain part of Newark. Maybe you should tell them those stories, and they would begin to embrace other things besides negativity and death. They begin to embrace life. And it's very, very important now, because Kwanzaa is under attack. And I don't think it's Kwanzaa that's really under attack. I think it's us that's under attack. And they're using the idea of Kwanzaa to attack us. So Pat Robertson is talking about a pagan holiday, like Santa Claus has something to do with Jesus. He's saying that Kwanzaa is a pagan holiday, that we have nothing, that these African rituals, that he can't find none of these rituals in Africa anywhere. That's because Pat Robertson doesn't read, and he does not understand that Kwanzaa was created by African Americans, that it is an American, really it's an American holiday organized by black people, ex-slaves in the United States, who decided to have a ritual or something that celebrates their own history and their own culture other than slavery and oppression and death and decadence, that they would create something that their children could say belongs to them. That they didn't want to give the credit to a fat white man in a red suit, that somehow that they wanted to give credit to their grandmother, to their grandfather, who sat on the bus like Rosa Parks, who was steel workers, who was laundry workers, who worked in this country sometimes, most of the times for free, who worked here, that they wanted to give them something. So you got Pat Robertson and all these people attacking Kwanzaa, and then you got black people up there attacking it, because we want to sound like we're intelligent, we're the new wave of something, so we attack it too. And you get young intellectuals who come up and tell you how Kwanzaa is a silly and crazy and sick holiday. Then they start talking about the individuals, the personalities of people involved in Kwanzaa. If we start identifying the people who came up with Christmas, we might be in trouble. If you start going back into Europe and start identifying people and start talking about all of those, the Brumalia and the Saturnalia and all of those holidays and the Festival of Lights and all of this stuff, then it might be really scary. So I would advise that they leave the kind of personality attacks alone. Because if somebody with intelligence begins to talk and debate, a lot of these people would have to go into hiding. They would have to go into hiding. Now, I just want to, I had to say that, you know, I guess I had to come back later, but I just had to say that because we are under attack, whether you know it or not. And we should not just be celebrating Kwanzaa just for the nostalgia of it. We should not be celebrating it just because it's Black Christmas. We should be celebrating it as a means of self-determination, because we believe that we have the right to celebrate what we want to celebrate and represent and celebrate ourselves in how we see fit. And that nobody can come and tell us that we should not do this, that we cannot do this, who we should like, who we shouldn't like, who we should oppose and who we should be for. And not only that, we should be giving it to young people, even if you're not celebrating it, just to let them know what it is. That there are black people who came up with some stuff. That there were people who organized their whole lifestyles around this, whether you agree with it or not. There were people who designed things, who were in Newark, New Jersey, in the East Coast. That there were organizations called the Committee for Unified Newark, the Congress of African People that existed. And though they lie and want to tell you that these organizations didn't exist, United Brothers, that they don't teach you in school about these organizations, that these organizations existed and they lived and people grew here and they protected black people. And when people pulled guns out on black people, it was organizations like this. It was black men that stood up and helped other black people in this community. It was black women that organized in these towns and these communities to raise everybody's children. The Committee for Unified Newark, the Congress of African People, the United Brothers, these are real organizations that existed in our town, and we should celebrate them and uphold it and understand if it wasn't for these organizations that most of these Negroes throughout the state of New Jersey wouldn't even be able to show their faces around this place if it wasn't for black people in this town who gave up their life and their careers and their families. They sacrificed their children in order that you Negroes can make millions of dollars. On that, I say Harabari Ghani, right? And see, I guess I got to come back up here later and talk again. Enjoy the day, enjoy the festivities. Thank you. Like the young people.